So we now begin our fifth technical session. In the words of John Carver, governance is not the budget lines, personnel issues, and equipment approvals. It is about values and vision and strategic leadership. Good governance actually is an interlocking disciplinary practice where the state is disciplined by society and society by the state. Discipline is important for all systems of government. To understand the discipline that pressures our parliamentarians, ICSI has invited renowned, honorable former and present member of Upper and Lower House of Parliament to advocate on the principle and practices required in building a stronger and self-reliant India in our fifth technical session, which is on Atmanirbhar Bharat, parliamentary discipline in building self-reliant India. And for that, I would like to call upon stage on the dais. I would request CS Manish Gupta, Council Member ICSI, and CS Praveen Soni, Council Member ICSI, to kindly escort the two dignitaries on stage. Our first member is Mr. Kumar Ketkar. He's a journalist, he's an honorable member of parliament, Rajya Sabha. He's a journalist and an author, an alumnus of IIT Bombay. He's the editor-in-chief of Dainik Divya Marathi, the Marathi language daily of the Dainik Bhaskar group of newspapers. Prior to this, he has been editor for leading dailies such as Lok Satta, Maharashtra Times, and the Lokmat group of newspapers. He is a recipient of the C.D. Deshmukh Award for Excellence in Economic Financial Writing, the Giants International Award for International Coverage, the Rajiv Gandhi Award for Media, and the prestigious Padma Shri Award, the fourth highest civilian award bestowed by the Indian government. His international assignments include the coverage of the presidential elections in the US, collapse of the Soviet Union from Moscow, liberalization in Vietnam, and the elections in the UK. Our second guest today is Mr. Anil Gupta, Council Member ICSI, Government Nominee. Mr. Anil Gupta is a commerce graduate and a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He's currently partner of Gupta Sachdeva and Company and a government nominee in the Central Council of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He has been a member of the various committees of ICAI, including Accounting Standards Board of ICAI, Auditing and Assurance Standard Board of ICAI, Public Finance and Government Accounting Committee of ICAI, Committees of ICAI on Companies Bill for recommendation to Parliament, Study Group by ICAI on preparation of guidance note on CSR, Study Group by ICAI on preparation of guidance note on independent directors, Committee on Internal Audit and Internal Control of NIRC of ICAI. He's authored a book on practical issues of TDS. He's a visiting faculty at Income Tax Department, Ministry of Finance, Training Cell, Delhi VAT Department, and Punjab VAT Department. He's taken training sessions and workshops at Service Tax Department and IRS trainees. And our third guest, we are honored to have him, but he'll be present virtually. He is the Honorable Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, and Indian emissary of G20, Shri Suresh Prabhu. Mr. Suresh Prabhu is the Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha for Andhra Pradesh. He completed BCom honors in '73. He's an LLB and a chartered accountant from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Since 1996, he has been repeatedly elected as Member of Parliament to the 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th Lok Sabha of Rajapur constituency in Maharashtra as a member of the Shiv Sena political party. He has at various times held the post of Minister of Industry, Minister of Environment and Forests, Minister of Fertilizers and Chemicals, Power, Railway, Commerce and Industry, and Civil Aviation. We are proud to have you all here. Now I would request CS Manish Gupta to kindly formally welcome the guests with ICSI Angavastram and Planter. Welcoming Mr. Kumar Ketkar, Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha. Thank you so much, sir. We are honored to have you here. A big round of applause, please. I would request CS Praveen Soni, Council Member, the ICSI, to formally welcome Mr. Anil Gupta, Council Member, ICSI Government Nominee, with an Angavastram and planter from ICSI. Thank you so much, sir. We are honored to have you here as well. We'd start with Manish sir's welcome address.
Thank you, Sonu. At the outset, I welcome you all to the fifth and last technical session of 3 days National Convention being organized at Indore. I hope you all are enjoying. I hope you all are learning new skills and new things during these 3 days. Friends, this particular session is all about the Atmanirbhar Bharat. And Atmanirbhar Bharat is all about our own our own capabilities and our own confidence. It's all about producing each and everything and in India. It's all about talking about vocal for local. It's all about make in India. It's all about creating new opportunities and employment for the youth, for the unskilled, for the skilled, for the professionals within India, for each and everything in India. Friends, self-reliance and sustainability goes hand in hand at all levels. And self-reliance is a virtue than mere attitude, as it instills the confidence of survival without relying on any other person. Since time immemorial, the quality of self-reliance has always been on forefront for growth and development, not only at the individual level, but also at an institutional level. Self-reliance is an essential trait for achieving success across all spheres, all goals. And in the recent times, there has a thrust on building self-reliant nation, that is Atmanirbhar Bharat, for which various measures have already been undertaken by the government and various new schemes have already been launched. As a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, the government has announced slew of reforms ranging from privatization of public sector enterprises to specific measures for MSME. Further, the intent of legislature towards building Atmanirbhar Bharat is reflected in amendments to various regulation inter alia. Amendments include definitions of MSME, provisions relating to the insolvency proceedings, decriminalization of certain offenses within the Companies Act and other statutes. Uh, Self-reliance is an overarching principle which is very relevant for the businesses to survive and thrive in this competitive economic environment. As a professional, we are duty bound to support the initiatives of the Government of India towards developing the self-reliant India and to contribute in our professional capacity to these initiatives by bringing about awareness amongst the businesses we deal with and in services we render to all those corporates. Now the time has come when we all have to look for our self-development, self-governance, and by doing those things, we all will be self-reliant and moving towards the Atmanirbhar Bharat. The professionals would also get an opportunity to report and contribute on matters relating to the self-reliance or Atmanirbhar Bharat of the businesses. As little drops of water make mighty ocean, individual self-reliant businesses, irrespective of its size, will contribute to the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Friends, we have with us learned speakers for this particular session. Mr. Kumar Ketkar, who is a member of parliament from Rajya Sabha. And we also have with us our own Anil Gupta ji. He is a government nominee nominated by MCA to the Council of ICSI. And Suresh Prabhu ji is also joining us virtually. I welcome you all on this occasion and look forward for the discussion on this particular panel. Over to you, Sonu.
Shri Suresh Prabhu would be joining us virtually. Yeah, he'll be joining us soon in a few seconds.
Let me congratulate the Institute of Company Secretaries for this very interesting program, as they always do. The company secretaries play a very key and important role in running the corporate sector of the country. Corporate sector in turn runs the economy of the country. Let me congratulate the Institute of Company Secretaries Let me congratulate the Institute of Company Secretaries for this very interesting program, as they always do. The company secretaries play a very key and important role in running the corporate sector of the country. Corporate sector in turn runs the economy of the country. The economy in turn creates jobs for millions. Those who have these jobs spend a huge amount of money on daily necessities, on buying house, buying cars, and doing many things. That expenditure that they incur, in turn, again, fuels the growth in the economy. So economy runs, in a way, through the efforts of the corporate sector, which in turn is run by our company secretary. So let me acknowledge the great role played by them in ensuring that there is a due compliance to law, that there is a good corporate governance in place. There is already all the stakeholders who are part of this corporate structure, they are properly taken care of. They also ensure that the taxes are paid to the government. That's part of the compliance. And those taxes in turn help in creating social and physical infrastructure for the country. So company secretaries are a very key and important player as professionals. And therefore, I must compliment their role, congratulate them for their big task in nation building. This program today is focusing on Atmanirbhar Bharat. The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, has given a clarion call for ensuring that in changing world scenario, we must also focus on nation's development in a way that will not be left out of this changing world stage. The world is turning inward, unfortunately. The world is putting borders around their own countries, levying tariffs, creating non-tariff barriers, and in the process, each one of us must find out how do you continue to grow to ensure that we create livelihoods, ensure that better quality of life for all the citizens of India. And to do all this, we must have strategies in place. The Prime Minister Modi clarion call of Atmanirbhar Bharat ensures that we'll focus on these issues in a clear manner. In that, he has segmented all the important players of the society. And for each one of them, he has drawn up a strategy. Whether they may be workers or they may be farmers, they may be women or they may be youth, each one of them will be taken care of in terms of their priorities and their necessities and their future challenges. I remember when I was a Prime Minister of Commerce and Industry, I prepared a roadmap for a $5 trillion economy, which Prime Minister had set a goal for. In that, we had very clearly made very detailed strategy, and I've spent many hours of my time to do that, to find out how in that 5 trillion economy, if 20% of that, that's $1 trillion will come from industry, 60%, that is $3 trillion will come from services, and another $1 trillion, that's another 20% will come from agriculture and allied activities. All of this put together will be the roadmap for building the future India. And in doing that, while we worked on this macro level, and each one of them, I had prepared a detailed plan, how industry, how services, how agriculture will work together. I had also prepared another bottoms up approach. How each district of India can contribute the growth of India. And if you grow a district of India, automatically those who live in the district will benefit first. And those all district citizens, district dwellers, they benefit. Automatically Atmanirbharta will happen because each one of them will be self-reliant, self-developed, fully putting the potential. So therefore, self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat can happen through district-led growth also. This was a very model concept which I had introduced, in which we worked on 6 districts, one in north, that is Varanasi, one in south, which is Visakhapatnam, one in east, which is Muzaffarpur in Bihar, and one in west, Sindhudurga and Ratnagiri in Konkan, and one in hilly area of Solan in Himachal Pradesh. If each district grows by 3% more than the normal growth, automatically India will grow faster by 3 to 4%. But when the district grows, all the farmers in district will benefit first. All the youth in the district will benefit first. All the women in district will benefit first. All the fishermen, if there are fishermen in the district, will benefit first. All the people in the district will benefit first by understanding their skills, development of their skills, developing the ecosystem based on this. All of this will lead to the huge exponential growth in India's economy. So therefore, we are working on all this strategy, and I am sure this Atmanirbhar will ensure that India will be a different type of a self-confident nation. We want multilateralism. We want India to grow by also exploiting potential of India's growth overseas. There are more than 30 million Indians or people of Indian origin who live in different parts of the world. We want their growth, we want their development. And to do all this, we need a proper foreign policy, which Prime Minister Modi is trying to pursue. We need to engage with all the important countries of the world so that they themselves will also become our partners. And therefore, Atmanirbhar Bharat means collaborating and cooperating and forging relationship and partnership with important countries, important companies, important technologies, important universities, important players in the world. It also means that we develop our own national ethos. We must develop that to our education system. So our new education policy will also ensure that this will contribute to Atmanirbharta over a period of time. We need good infrastructure. If we don't have infrastructure, how will we Atmanirbhar? So the new infrastructure pipeline, which Prime Minister has announced, will also ensure there will be Atmanirbharta, which will be coming from that. We need to develop local skills. I'll give an example. We run an NGO in Konkan, Manav Sadhan Vikas Samstha. In the last 25 years, we have trained more than 100,000 women, 1 lakh women and youth and farmers and fishermen together, 1 lakh for self-employment training. We run a nursing college, all nurses have become self-employed. We run sports areas so that sports person can also become self-generating through their activities. Sports also is a means of livelihood. We have created Parivartan Kendras, one for 10 villages, and we have 400 Parivartan Kendras for almost 2,000 villages, through which we give environmental, social, economic, physical, spiritual, and intellectual training to the people and make them self-employed and Atmanirbhar. When we are fully developed in all faculties which I mentioned, we are fully developed. We work on 6 interest groups: women, youth, farmers, fishermen, ex-servicemen, and of course the youth. All of them together, they become Atmanirbhar. And to do that, we give them free cycles so that all women can travel because it's a rural area. We give them free sewing machines so that they can start earning livelihood at their own place. To fishermen, we are giving them ice boxes and others so that they can store the fish and can earn more money. So we are training farmers in a very extensive and very advanced training. Through Farmers Club that we have formed, they will earn more money. Each one of them will become on their own. The women in rural areas where we have trained them, they become so confident that you can see a smile on their face. We can see a new confident attitude towards life. We can see that they're giving more education to their kids. No husband can now raise his hand to beat his wife because wife is now economically independent as well as trained so that she understands the value of her own existence and the rights that she enjoys as a woman, as a human. So we are working on all these areas and try to work on Atmanirbharta for last 25 years. And this is all in rural area of Konkan, Sindhudurga and Ratnagiri district, where again, thanks to this new initiative of Commerce and Industry Ministry, which I started as a minister that time, is also going to help them to propel into the new growth trajectory. So we have to work on this together and make sure that India becomes a self-reliant power by pursuing domestic policy, by pursuing foreign policy, by doing work in village, work at national level, work globally, act locally, create artisanship, create small industries, create fisheries, also work on farms. Corporate world will also come forward to support these initiatives of the vision initiatives of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, sir, for the acknowledgement and for the insightful motivational words. I would now request Shri Kumar Ketkar to kindly come and say a few words. Okay. So should I send the mic there? Okay.
It's on, yeah. Well, at the outset, I must thank ICSI for inviting me to this august gathering and for a wonderful subject, which is so topical. Actually, the theme that is given to us, the speakers, is Atmanirbhar Bharat, parliamentary discipline for self-reliant India. Why it is very important to recognize is that the general perception among the people, perhaps encouraged by the people in the media, that is including me, because most part of my life for more than 45 years, I have been in the media, TV as well as print. So the perception that we in the media have generated that by definition, all politicians are irresponsible, that all politicians are indisciplined, as if all those who comment in the media or among the people about politicians, as if they are extremely disciplined and responsible. They presume that they are disciplined and responsible and only politicians are irresponsible. The fact of the matter is, sir and madam, is all the politicians come from you and from us. Nobody falls from heaven or nobody comes from some alien. They're all here. So if there is indiscipline in society, that will reflect in parliament or assemblies or corporations or wherever. So indiscipline is an attribute. Now this subject, which Mr. Suresh Prabhu has properly outlined and set a frame of references, I can say that Atmanirbhar Bharat and the parliamentary discipline for self-reliant India has three important connotations in context. One is philosophy of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Second is politics of Atmanirbhar Bharat. And third, of course, is economics of Atmanirbhar Bharat. So we have to look at this concept of parliamentary discipline in this reference to the philosophy, politics, and economics. In terms of philosophy, Atmanirbhar Bharat is not a new idea at all. It all started when Lokmanya Tilak, way back in 1905, said that the rule of the British can be defeated only if we produce things. And if we start, and that's why he encouraged a lot many industries, lot many trades, and his entire politics was based on the philosophy of what we know today as Swadeshi. But that was before independence. He died in 1920, exactly 100 years ago. This year is the centenary of his death. But that particular philosophy attached to politics became more prominent when Gandhi picked up the idea from there. Lokmanya Tilak did not start Charkha. Gandhiji picked up from that and created Charkha as a symbol of Swadeshi. Many people in the so-called educated middle class ridiculed Gandhiji for Charkha. They said that he is anti-science, anti-technology, anti-industry. And Charkha, how will it bring independence? Without realizing that Charkha was making the people in the villages and in the cities personally, psychologically, and socially independent. And at least I know as a journalist, because I have interviewed so many people who are either dead now or were very old, who actually got the confidence in life and decided to join politics because of Charkha. It was known as Charkha Andolan. Now, Charkha Andolan, after some time, for a certain educated middle class, became an aspect of ridicule. Many people ridiculed Gandhiji for Charkha, and Charkha also itself became ridicule. But ultimately, all those who ridiculed Charkha today are worshipping Gandhiji. And therefore, we have to recognize that the idea of philosophy and idea of Swadeshi or Atmanirbhar Bharat, which began with Tilak, further promoted by Gandhiji, but did not become till Pandit Nehru started the entire project of Swadeshi in India. And then we had Bhakra Nangal, we had Durgapur, we had Bhilai, we had HOC, we had something like 5 major IITs and IIMs, which started by Nehru. Today. Most of the Silicon Valley or most of the software engineers from IIT are actually the products of the IITs started in the mid-50s and continued. I happen to be in the 1960s, so I know how the boys, and very few girls at that time, how the boys in IIT always aspired to go to America. Today I know whenever I go to America, I find that there are alumni of each year, like 1967 batch of IIT, 1969 batch of civil engineers in IIT, and they are in United States. So all that crowd, all that entire crowd created by IITs was also part of the self-reliant education about which Mr. Suresh Prabhu mentioned. He also mentioned about his organization working to do this for the last 25 years. I have gone there. I have seen Suresh Prabhu's work in Konkan region. So I know even before this current slogan came, Suresh Prabhu had started creating institutional frame for promoting local women, local fishermen, not always very literate, not educated, to have their own trade and who own small cottage industry. So the Atmanirbhar idea, which was set up or which was conceived as a philosophy by Tilak, promoted by Gandhi by individual action, and promoted as a policy, as a project, as a national project during Nehru's time, was also followed by NGOs like the one Suresh Prabhu mentioned. Now, the point is, when we talk about discipline in Parliament or discipline in Parliament for self-reliant India, as I mentioned in the beginning, many of us have this notion of parliamentarians who are politicians as indisciplined and irresponsible. Now, let me just put a question to you. Who is supposed to enforce the so-called parliamentary discipline? As I said, by definition, most Indians are quite indisciplined, very, very indisciplined. And all of you who must have gone abroad so many times must have realized this, how indisciplined as a crowd Indians are whenever you go, particularly to Europe. Now, that indiscipline, when it comes to parliament, from the same people, who is supposed to enforce the discipline in parliament? The speaker, we just heard Mr. Om Birla. Is it the speaker who is supposed to enforce discipline? Are the MPs themselves supposed to enforce the discipline? Are the parties whom they represent, those parties are supposed to enforce, who is supposed to enforce the discipline? I will just digress a little, not much. ICSI is a ruling class. Company secretaries are a ruling class. Perhaps you know the difference between ruling class and ruling party and ruling government and ruling state. As a student of sociology and politics, I can tell you the difference is quite fundamental. Even if ruling party is defeated in parliament or in the elections, ruling class continues to be there. Ruling class is not officially represented in parliament as ruling class. Ruling party is represented by party people. But ruling class operates from behind on the ruling government. That government may belong to a party or set of parties in terms of friends, but ruling government is not the ruling party or ruling set. Ruling class is different, ruling party or Agadi is different, and ruling state is different. That is why you will find that even if government is defeated and the new elections are pending, the state continues to function. There is no government. By the people like you, the professionals in the company secretaries, or I'm not even talking of industrialists, I'm talking about the bureaucracy inside the ruling class. You are, in a way, bureaucrats on a different platform. You are not bureaucrats in the government sector. So that bureaucracy, that class of chartered accountants, company secretaries, cost accountants, so many other professionals who are actually a ruling class, and therefore you are also part of the governance. Now, I'll just give you a simple example, if I don't feel offending anybody in the process, is that, for instance, the current crisis that we are facing with some about a lakh or near lakh farmers, mainly from Punjab and Haryana, and some have gone from Maharashtra and Karnataka also, are on the borders of Delhi, on Jaipur, Delhi Road, Agra, Delhi Road, and so on and so forth. In this cold winter, temperature 4, they are still there, sometimes with their families. One can say, or they are being discussed as if they have their everything, all facilities with them. They are all rich farmers, which I can tell you as a journalist, more as a Rajya Sabha member, that they are not all rich. They are middle class farmers. Middle class is not only an urban phenomenon. Middle class is also an agricultural phenomenon. There is a small farmer. Below small farmer is a poor farmer. Small farmer, middle farmer, rich farmer, and super rich farmer. Majority of the farmers who are there are middle farmers. And those middle farmers are protesting against certain acts which were enacted by the government in the parliament. Now, why I'm mentioning this as parliamentary discipline issue is because I have still not understood, despite being in Rajya Sabha when the acts were presented, why the ordinance came first, and that too during the lockdown emergency of COVID. Why the ordinance came and that ordinance was converted into acts, and acts were rushed into parliament in Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. Majority of the MPs, of course, in the opposition, were demanding that let it go to the Parliamentary Select Committee. And Parliamentary Select Committee will discuss if there are any flaws. In fact, the same flaws that you are reading about in every single newspaper article today, every single flaw that is mentioned in newspaper article on TV debates was mentioned in the parliament, and was told, government was told, don't rush, because so many flaws we have identified. Now, when Supreme Court said that these are the flaws there, government is apparently agreed to study the flaws. But when parliamentarians were demanding that the bill should be sent to the select committee, the same flaws were identified. but nobody cared for Parliament and the acts were rushed. Now the same flaws will be discussed under the orders of Supreme Court by the committee that is proposed by the Supreme Court. So if all this entire thing would have been avoided, all these farmers would not have been in the cold winter at the border of Delhi if the parliamentary discipline was followed. Now, who is supposed to enforce the discipline? If the government had followed that discipline and sent the acts before passing, before rushing to pass by voice vote finally in Rajya Sabha, when the opposition protested, it's not a question of whether opposition is right or ruling party is right. It is not also a question whether the acts are correct or acts are wrong. It is not also a question whether all the aspects of the bill at that time were right or wrong. The question is, how do you, in a disciplined manner, pass the bills and convert them into acts? That is discipline. Now, that discipline, if it had been followed properly, who was to follow that? Certainly not opposition. They are not in command. They are not in majority. It is distinctly possible. It is indeed very distinctly possible that government would have been able to pass irrespective of opposition, because opposition is quite marginalized. And yet they refused to send the bills to the select committee. So who was violating the discipline of Parliament? Parliament is supposed to have the select committee right. In fact, there are standing committees on almost all aspects of government decisions. Standing committee meetings in last about 10 years have been reduced to half. Not many standing committees are held. Now, isn't that indiscipline? Standing committees are not being held, and now select committees are not being arranged. So standing committee is not held, select committees. I'll give you a third instance. Immediately after independence, in the first phase, during Pandit Nehru's and Indira Gandhi's time, Rajya Sabha, because I am on Rajya Sabha used to meet about 90 to 110 days in a year. 90 to 110 days in a year. Today it is 60 to 70 days. You can say I am very happy because I have to go only for 60 days and 70 days to be present in Parliament, and rest of the days is for myself. And Rajya Sabha members have an additional advantage. We don't have to get elected. We don't have to get elected. So we are not necessarily, bothered about satisfying the so-called urges of the constituents in our constituency. So Rajya Sabha member is doubly benefited. He has to attend session only 60 to 70 days. He doesn't have to bother about the constituents, and still he so-called enjoys the benefit of being an MP. But why Rajya Sabha should be held only for 60 to 70 days when it has a tradition of having 90 to 110 days? So all these aspects are also part of the discipline for self-reliant India, because if parliamentarians are not allowed or do not get opportunity to present the argument in defense or in support of anything, of any act. You remember the simple, controversial, so-called moral act of LGBT, which was finally cleared by whom? It was finally cleared by the courts. Now, suppose tomorrow there is a referendum on it. The referendum will perhaps defeat the LGBT, and because people are morally oriented towards gay relationships or lesbian relationships, so they may oppose. But the fact is, court has approved. Now, when parliamentarians were demanding that all over the world, including in United States, England, Germany, they have accepted gay marriages, they have accepted lesbian marriages, they have allowed children to be adopted by gays and lesbians, why India is not doing it? When parliamentarians, irrespective of parties, it is not one party or other party, many bills or many acts have no particular political party approach in respect of any particular issue beyond part, because let us not presume that every single party thinks everything or about universe. Everything in the universe is not decided by the parties. Parties also have very limited focus. Parties have very limited agenda. Parties have a very, very limited worldview. It is the people in general, world over, who decide the parties. Parties come out of the people. Parties are born out of the people's perception of politics. And if parties are supposed to guide the people, instead of people guiding the party, you are already falling into the trap of indiscipline. Because parties are representatives of the people elect parliament, and Parliament is supposed to pass the bill and convert them into acts, and that entire responsibility is in that process or in that protocol. That protocol, when not observed, it becomes indisciplinary action. I will conclude because I know time is limited. Many a time it is argued that people in the opposition go to well and walk out, and that is indiscipline because Parliament's time is consumed and for which people pay taxes. Now, it is not for the first time, and it is not only in India. All over the world, going to the well or walk out is very common, whether one likes it or not, because that is also, as Arun Jaitley once said, Arun Jaitley famously said, that was on the front page, that in a way, parliamentary disruption is also our democratic right. You can see that on the YouTube, you can get his speech. Even parliamentary disruption is our democratic right. Now, how do you define discipline? If parliamentary disruption is a democratic right, when the BJP was in opposition, and when it is in ruling party, it becomes democratic hurdle. Then I think we have to decide. And the question is, it is not parties which will decide. Let us not hand over the right of the people to the courts. Who are the courts to decide from LGBT to farmers' prices whether MSP should be there or not? How can courts decide MSP should be there or not? Courts are not farmers. Courts are not political representatives. Courts will study the issue only when the issue is presented in a legalistic form. The lawyers will argue from both sides. But those who actually farm, those who are actually in industry, similarly, forget farming. Even the industries are constantly in conflict in front of the court, like the Vodafone issue we have seen. So industries were fighting, and the courts are supposed to decide. So actually the industry, the farming community, the academic community, the educational community, they are supposed to create their own institutions outside parliament and irrespective of parties, which are professionally determined issues. Whether it is medical profession or otherwise. Medical profession, every party cannot have its own view. Medical profession will decide how the medical profession should be handled. Today, what we have come to a stage when government is supposed to do everything for us and we are supposed to only follow and vote. Our role has been reduced to go to booth once in a while, sometimes 5 years, sometimes 2 years, and elect a leader. That is all the democracy that has survived. Democracy means participation of the various groups, various interests, various communities. And as I said, class, party, government, and state are 4 different things. If community rights are given up, then democracy will not survive, whether we are disciplined or not, whether we keep quiet like children in the school, and children in the school don't quiet. So, or we go to the wall or we go to the walkout or not, I don't think that is a matter of question of discipline. The question of discipline will come from bottom up, and that bottom up discipline is what is wanted. You as company secretaries, as a professional organization, for instance, I don't know how many members you have, maybe a couple of lakh, but all those 60,000, no, all 60,000 members of ICSI are not necessarily having the same political party affiliation or political party choice. Among 60,000, there can be 5 or 6 or 3 or 2 political party choices. And yet you are an organized body. What you decide as an organization is irrespective of politics, parties, and governments. That is how it should be. Because parties actually act as hurdles. And when we allow, Raghuram Rajan, former governor of Reserve Bank of India, has written a book called Third Pillar. He says, when you give up the third pillar according to him is community. When the community ceases to operate as third pillar of democracy, democracy can't sustain itself. Our task today is to strengthen these third pillars, and one of the third pillars is ICSI. Thank you very much for inviting me, and sorry if I have hurt somebody's political sentiments, but I was not talking as a political party member. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for crisply explaining philosophy, politics, and economics responsible for making an Atmanirbhar Bharat. I would now request Shri Anil Gupta, Council Member, ICSI Government Nominee, to kindly say a few words.
Honorable President, ICSI, CS Ashish Garg Sahab, Honorable Vice President, CS Nagendra Rao ji, very smiling face, both of them are having. And I hope that it will continue to be so in the coming future also. Then Anil Firojia and Shankar Lalwani ji in absence. My fellow speaker, Kumar Ketkar sir, MP Rajya Sabha, Praveen Soni ji, Manish Gupta ji, Central Council members, my dear friends, brothers and sisters. See, the topic is Atmanirbhar Bharat, grassroots to global, and the role of parliament. So I have divided into 5 parts, and I will be delving for 5 to 7 minutes. One is, what is Atmanirbhar Bharat? Second is, what exactly you mean by grassroots? Then what's the role of global and the role of the company sectors? As rightly pointed out by Kumar Ketkar sir, that in 1905, Lokmanya Tilak reminded you about Atmanirbhar Bharat. Why the word reminded was used? Because if you go back 1,000 years back, there was Raja Harsh, there was Samrat Ashok, and the country was Atmanirbhar at that time. Then we were invaded by the Mughals. But even during the regime of Mughals, there was a king, Chhatrapati Shivaji, who established his rule when he was encircled by the Mughals, and he proved it in 1674 that India is still Atmanirbhar. Prime Minister Narendra Modi just reminded you that you are Atmanirbhar. He just knocked at your door just to remind you, Uttishth Bharat, Jagrit Bharat. Nothing else. Atmanirbharta is just a philosophy. I agree with Kumar Ketkar sir. Now, coming to the point. As Suresh Prabhuji said, each district. So I have brought certain case studies because whatever my previous 2 speakers dwelled upon the Atmanirbharta, I am not taking you to Atmanirbharta. Country can be Atmanirbhar only when the district is Atmanirbhar. Unless and until the district, the town within that district, the village within that district, and the every fellow person within that district feels Atmanirbhar, the country cannot be Atmanirbhar. Let me come to the very first case study, Amul. It's a fit case study to understand Atmanirbharta. Amul is a group of 36 lakh farmers, 36 lakh members, residing in roughly 18,000 villages of Gujarat. Now, what revolution this percolation has brought? Each member is having an income of 7 lakh to 15 lakhs per year. Just imagine that residing in 18,000 villages of India and having an income of 7 lakh to 15 lakhs per annum. Not merely that, there is a steady growth of 5% each year. And another feather in the story of success story of Amul is that Amul returns back 80 to 82% of the turnover to the farmers by way of shape of price margin. That's what called the percolation of wealth. That's the first example of Atmanirbhar, which is being practiced in this country for more than last 3 decades. Now let me come to a very simple and very small example, because Amul is a big example. It's already established example. I am giving you an example of Delhi. There is a brand in the shawls, Ahuja Sons. Those who you may be knowing about the Ahuja shawls. What he did, he contacted the artisans of Kashmir Valley. He is in touch with 1,000 villages of Kashmir Valley, and not now, since last 3 decades. And the shawls, they are being got embroidered by the artisans of Kashmir Valley. This is how the growth will reach and percolate to the farmers, to the villages. A third example is very interesting one. It came in KBC also. The name of the lady is Ruma Devi. She is from Barmer. It's a very interesting example. She's illiterate. She was from a very economically weaker section. And today she is an icon. How it happened? She was having expertise in soof work, that's the work of Rajasthan. It's artisan work. Soof work, gudri work, and applique work. So what she did, she started training the women force of villages. Today, she has trained more than 22,000 women folk. And they are earning. And to add to the feather is the best point which when I heard about the interview that was taken by Mayor Castellino, the interview is there on the Google. She brought those parda nashi, because Rajasthan mein parda pehante hain, wo ghungat hota hai. So brought those women folk to Delhi and to Jaipur for the fashion week, and she made them walk on the ramp. That was the force that Ruma Devi produced and made it successful. So that's an example of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now coming to Indore, though MP Sahaba is not there, so I have just done a little study about what Indore is. And don't forget, we are discussing one district, one product. Indore is divided into 4 blocks, 335 panchayats and 649 villages. The beauty of Indore is the products which Indore produces and which the world sees. The products are handloom and small cotton textile, then bamboo mat industry, then bamboo basket industry, then Ayurvedic and Unani medicines, and then the food industry, especially the small namkeen manufacturers. Now, whether the MP of this area takes care of these 4 blocks, 335 panchayats, 649 villages, whether he takes care of their needs, where they are lacking, and what exactly can be done for their livelihood and the income. This is what is needed from the MPs. Finally, the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, the CS. I am addressing it to the present president as well as the coming presidents also. There is an organization called LAMP, Legislative Assistance to the Member of Parliament. What they do, they pick up 40 MPs of the country from Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha both. And the organization name is PRS, Parliamentary Research Study. It's a big organization. It's a study group. So they take up from one side the MPs, and from other side they take up the the law students, the management students, and they create a bridge between those students and that parliamentarian, and those students help the parliamentarian in studying the bills, in studying the reports, and the parliamentarian, including Honorable Anurag Thakur ji, he is using those LAMP fellows, because I happened to be in one of the programs where it was a convocation ceremony of those LAMP fellows, and Anurag Thakur ji was there as a chief guest. So those students help those parliamentarians, and so that the parliamentarians can perform better. The indiscipline which Kumar Ketkar ji was just referring to, that can be converted to discipline and has been converted to discipline by LAMP. Now coming to CS. See, you are having presence throughout India, and I'm sure must be throughout all the 600 plus districts of the country. You are having global presence. What happens? The government makes so many announcements and so many schemes. Unfortunately, the beneficiaries, they are not able to get the benefit of those schemes. So can the CS Institute or any of the CS member take care of his own district and create a bridge between his own MP and the schemes that can be helpful to the persons or the citizens of that district? UP has proved it. You visit the UP site, it's called ODOP, one district, one product. It's a beautiful site. And what they have done, they have listed all the 75 districts and the products that are prevalent and that are popular in that particular district. They are making them earn through those particular products, those the skills that particular district is having. So I am making a request to the Company Sector Institute, that institute should help the parliamentarian. Let's produce 3, 4, or 5 pilot examples where we can make an impact study that the institute, with the help of the institute, the parliamentarian was able to perform better and was able to change the district. So with those words and with that request, I convey my wishes to all of you with 2 requests. When we discuss Atmanirbhar, there is a controversy with regard to Swadeshi. कि जो आत्मनिर्भर है वो स्वदेशी की बात करता है. It's not like that. See, we belong to a country where Vasudev Kutumbakam was not said now. It was said hundred of years back. हम तो उस देश को बिलोंग करते हैं जहां वसुदेव कुटुंबकम की बात की जाती है. तो वहां पर बाहर से अगर टेक्नोलॉजी आती है, बाहर से कैपिटल आती है, बाहर से ह्यूमन रिसोर्स आता है, तो उसके लिए कोई मनाही नहीं है. लेकिन उसका ये मीनिंग नहीं है कि मैं अपनी कंट्री को भूल जाऊं. तो आप सबको मैं एक शुभकामनाएं देके अपनी बात को समाप्त कर रहा हूं. प्रॉस्पेरिटी जो है वो सबके पास पहुंचे तो देश आत्मनिर्भर होता है. तो सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिना, जो ये संदेश भारत के ऋषि मनीषियों ने दिया है, वो संदेश इस आत्मनिर्भरता के माध्यम से, वो संदेश इस वन डिस्ट्रिक्ट वन प्रोडक्ट के माध्यम से देश के कोने कोने तक पहुंचे. इन शुभकामनाओं के साथ मैं अपनी बात को विराम देता हूं.
Thank you so much, sir, for explaining in details through these small stories how Atmanirbharta is already there and how self-discipline is responsible for Atmanirbhar Bharat. We have released today, and for that I would request CS Ashish Garg, President the ICSI, to kindly join the dignitaries on stage. Oh, he's a great. The release is Ancient Scriptures, the New Age Guide to Governance Maxims. And here it's a significant attempt to correlate the concepts highlighted in some of the ancient scriptures such as Ramayana, Mahabharata, Arthashastra, Thirukural, and Narayanam to the principles of governance, contributing to possibly more than a handful of knowledge. Ancient Scriptures, the New Age Guide to Governance Maxim. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the release. Thank you so much. I would now request CS Praveen Soni to kindly propose the vote of thanks. And then we'll give the Shahid Ki Beti certificates to the dignitaries.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, friends, all the participants present here in person, as well as around more than 3,000 participants, those who are viewing it from the virtual basis. This is the last technical session of this 48th National Convention of ICSA, which we had under the able leadership of our President, Mr. Ashish Garg, and the wonderful program we had today. We are blessed with the speakers those who were presented here, including at the beginning of the day today, when Anurag Thakurji was there, and he has spoken very well about the Atmanirbhar Bharat and appreciated the actions taken by the ICSA at various platforms, at various places, including on Panchayat and governance. We also heard today from Shri Om Birla ji, who has spoken on the role played by the ICSA on the corporate world, and the new chapters and branches opened by the Institute on worldwide, and including the honesty and transparency bring in by the ICSA. Friends, Atmanirbhar Bharat, which we understand from the speakers of today, It is not like if something we are using of any foreign brand, any product, any car, any IT equipment, we are using of foreign product. And if you want to use it Atmanirbhar, then you stop using that product and you start or you use any sub-discipline or sub-mark product into India. The Atmanirbhar Bharat means you please produce the same quality or the better quality product in India and start using it. So there is no need to compromise with the quality or the range of the product which you want to use. But let's think of producing the same product in India. That's the aim of the man of developing India, Mr. Modi. And the same thing says that बुलंदियां आपको खुद तलाश कर लेगी, मौका न छोड़िए मुश्किलों में मुस्कुराने का. And the same thing came out when prior to the March, India was not producing any single PP kit, the personal protective equipment, and now India is producing more than 5 lakh PP kit on a daily basis, and we are the second largest on Pan India. So these are the data which I can just see from up to November. I don't know till this moment the data might have increased, but yes, with the visionary and the guidance of the Prime Minister of India, I think India is now producing more into arms and ammunition. Apple itself came down to India to produce their mobiles. Big Fours, now we are thinking and working towards it, have its own, our Indians Big Fours, so that we can serve to the world as far as the profession is concerned. Atmanirbhar Bharat Rozgar Yojana is where new employment opportunities have been provided to the people. ECLGC scheme is there, Employment Credit Guarantee Scheme, whereby more than 2.5 lakh crore loan has been sanctioned to 61 lakhs borrower to various MSMEs, individuals and business proprietorship concern. So friends, these are various initiatives taken by the government of India. Thank you, Suresh Prabhuji, for being there and advising and detailing about the various initiatives taken by the government of India under this Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you, Kumar Ketkarji, for being there and sparing of your valuable time and really guiding us and connecting us with the philosophy and nomenclating and giving the responsibility to the ICC as a third pillar. So, sir, this is a wonderful session and wonderful hearing from you. Thank you so much to Shri Anil Gupta ji, our own member into the Central Council of ICICI, our own government nominee. Thank you, sir, for being there and really giving a connect between the ancient India when India was actually Atmanirbhar, if we talk about from the Samrat Ashok or Shivaji Maharaj, and connecting the Amul from the lady from Barmer. So this is really some of the things which we have into our Indian sculpture and Indian customs. And yes, we people are really hardworking and we can definitely perform well and we are performing well. With this, I would like to conclude you with the last says, बेहतर से खूब और खूब से बेहतर को तलाश कर, बेहतर से खूब और खूब से बेहतर को तलाश कर, और अगर दरिया मिले तो समुद्र को तलाश कर. जय हिंद, जय भारत.
We would now like to give Shaheed Ki Beti certificates to our dignitaries. Praveen Soni, sir. We would now like to present the Shaheed Ki Beti certificate to Shri Kumar Ketkar ji, Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha. Thank you so much, sir, for honoring us. It was a pleasure hearing you, and it's actually an honor to have you here. I would now request CS Manish Gupta, sir, to kindly give the Shaheed Ki Beti certificate to Shri Anil Gupta, Council Member, ICSI, Government Nominee. The significance of the Shaheed Ki Beti certificate, sir. Sir, I would like to. Okay, the significance of the Shaheed Ki Beti certificate is we do not give any gifts to our dignitaries. Instead, the fund that is collected, that is given to the daughters of the martyrs and for their education.